Look at this map of Venezuela. At first glance, it seems like a typical South American country, rich in natural resources and coastline. But if we zoom in here, a deadly trap emerges. Venezuela's geography isolates it, creating natural choke points and limiting access to vital trade routes. This isn't just bad luck. The physical layout of the land is an enemy that silently dooms Venezuela's economy and strategic potential. Venezuela's landscape is dominated by the Andes Mountains in the west and the Guiana Highlands in the southeast. These formidable ranges act as natural barriers, isolating the interior and restricting internal transport networks. The country's northern coastline on the Caribbean Sea offers some access to trade routes, but crucially, these ports face obstacles. The highly sedimented Orinoco Delta creates navigational hazards. Moreover, the lack of deepwater ports limits large-scale maritime trade, forcing reliance on vulnerable choke points such as Puerto Cabello. These choke points are easily blockaded or disrupted, restricting the flow of exports, particularly oil, which constitutes over 90% of Venezuela's GDP from foreign sales. Additionally, the southern border acts as a buffer zone, vulnerable but underpopulated and difficult to develop due to dense jungle terrain, further limiting strategic depth. Demographics compound the problem, as urban centers cluster along the coast, but struggle with infrastructural decay and limited hinterland connections. Faced with geographic limitations, Venezuela has pursued several strategic avenues. Domestically, there has been an attempt to build infrastructure projects aiming to bypass natural barriers, including highway expansions over mountainous terrain and plans for canal-like waterways connecting the Orinoco River basin to the coast. However, these projects often suffer from funding shortages and mismanagement. On the diplomatic front, Venezuela has sought alliances with regional powers, notably Russia and China, to bolster economic and military capacity, a response to its geographic vulnerabilities and geopolitical isolation. Militarily, control over buffer zones in the southern jungle has become crucial to prevent foreign incursions or insurgency spillover, though the terrain inherently favors guerrilla tactics, complicating defense. Energy exports attempt to circumvent choke points through pipelines and upgraded port facilities. Yet these remain exposed to hostile intervention from rivals controlling maritime choke points in the Caribbean. Ultimately, Venezuela's strategy is reactive, patching over geographic weaknesses rather than redesigning its fundamental position in global trade and power networks. The next 10 years will likely see Venezuela trapped further by its geography unless radical shifts occur. Economically, reliance on oil exports via vulnerable ports will continue hampering GDP growth. Any choke point disruption could trigger steep declines. Geopolitically, buffer zones in the south will remain contested, with foreign powers increasing influence through proxy forces or resource extraction. Infrastructure improvements are slow and insufficient to overcome the mountainous interior and limited coastline. Demographically, urban migration to exposed coastal cities will intensify pressure on failing infrastructure, sparking social unrest. Unless Venezuela opens new trade routes or establishes stronger, more sustainable buffer zones, it will remain a geographic prisoner. Strategic isolation combined with resource dependency cements Venezuela's status as a choke point victim, a nation whose physical layout dooms its rise to regional power and economic stability. In conclusion, Venezuela's geography is a silent adversary. Mountains, choke points, and buffer zones dictate every strategic move. Understanding these physical realities is crucial to grasping Venezuela's economic and geopolitical stagnation. If you found this deep dive insightful, subscribe for more strategic analyses and share your thoughts. How do you think geography will shape the future of global powers? Stay sharp and informed.